Okay, welcome back. This is our third uh, video here. I'm going over Hilchot Shechita. And let's get started. Dinei, Drasa, V'chalada, Grama, V'ikor. So there are 5 halachot that the Shulchan Aruch taught us every shochet has to know, or his Shechita is psula. And they were Shiyah, which we learned in the last lesson, which is pausing in the middle of our Shechita. Drasa, which we're going to see is like chopping. Chalada, from the word rust. Chaluda, rust covers rust covers something, so that's how we remember it. It's that it was not seen. The cut was covered. The simanim were not seen. Hagrama, which we also saw earlier, which where the shechita was done in the wrong place, either too high or too low. And ikor is a machloket. What it is, Rashi says ikor is cutting with a knife that has a pegima, and ikur, the other opinion is, and the main opinion is that the simanim were pulled out of their place, i.e., they became disconnected from the bottom or the top, and not at our cut, but disconnected at its root. And cutting with the knife with the pegima is what. Instead of cutting, is what pulls the siman, and so that's why it's also ikor. Okay, drasa keitzad. What is drasa? Kegon sheniach hasakin al hatzavar v'dachak v'chatach lemata kechotech tznon o kishut harezo psula. So you put the hiniach hasakin al hatzavar, you put the knife on the neck, v'dachak, and you pushed, v'chatach lemata, and cut down. You cut with a downward chop. Kechotech tznon, like somebody who cuts radishes, or kishut, or I believe that's zucchinis. Harezo psula, ve'ein tzarich lomar im hacha b'sakin al tzavar kederech shemechin b'sayif v'chatach asimanim bevat echat. And we don't have to say, if so, it's like a knife on the neck, like one prepares a saif and cut the simanim bevat achat. A saif, I'm just going to look that up. Forgot what that word means. Google Translate is very helpful. Saif in English. Hold on, I apologize, but I always want to know what this word means. You guys at home probably did this faster than me. Fencing. Like a fencing, a saif. So that's like one of those long, pointy, knives that they use in fencing, and so I'm not exactly sure what it means to say here, to tell you the truth. Ve'ein tzarich lomar, it doesn't have to say im hacha b'sakin al tzavar kederech shemechin b'sayif, the way you prepare a fencing knife and cut the simanim with one shot. Basically means you can't cut it in one shot, like just a downwards motion. It has to be with a back and forth motion, or at least with one direction of motion, which we're going to see a little bit later on, and a cut and not a chop. Bet shachat beholacha or behova'a levad. So here, this is exactly what I was just talking about. If you cut in the holacha motion, the walking away from you motion, or hova'a, or coming back towards you motion only. So if you cut in only one direction, not back and forth. Im yesh besakin kimalet tzavar v'chutz tzavar. If you have 1.5 necks, kimlot tzavar, which means a full neck, v'chutza tzavar, and that same distance away from the neck, i.e. 2 necks, pardon me, not 1.5 necks. Kimlot tzavar, kshera, v'imlav, psula. Oh, now I understand. Basakin kimlot tzavar, v'chutz tzavar kimlot tzavar. So it's 2 necks. You have to have melot tzavar on the knife, and v'chutz tzavar, and away from the neck, kimlot tzavar. In other words, the knife has to cut the neck, and you have to have outside of the neck, in other words, additional knife also equal to the neck. So 2 necks is what you need. Kshera. If you cut in only one direction with a knife that is 2 lengths of necks of whatever animal you're cutting, that is okay. You do not have to go back and forth if you have a knife that's at least 2 necks in length. V'imlav psula, but if your knife is less than that length and you only cut in one direction, the shechita is no good. Shekol she'ein bo kishiur hazeh i efshar lishchot belo drasa. So now he tells us why. Because if you don't have at least this amount of length of your knife, it's impossible to shecht without chopping, without drasa. Al yedei holacha hova'a levad. It's impossible in one direction to cut enough of the simanim if your knife is not at least this big, going only in one direction. Ve'im holich ve'vi afilu shachat bizem koshu kshera. But if he went in both directions of the cutting, even if in the other direction was only just a little bit, then it is kosher. V'yesh machmirin b'behema, the Rama tells us here, and this only applies to chickens. For behema, we are stricter. V'aminhag biglilot elu lifsol b'behema afilu holech ve'evi im ein besakin kimlot tzavar v'chutz l'tzavar mashehu. And our custom is to not allow shechita on a behema, even if he went back and forth, if the knife wasn't at least 2 neck lengths. It wasn't two neck lengths. Because we learned here that if I go in one direction only, I need 2 lengths. But if I go in both directions, I can get away with less than 2 lengths. I only need 1 length and a little bit. But he says, no, that only applies for chickens. But for a behema, for a cow, I need at least 2 lengths for even going back and forth. So he would say that, so the Rama would say that I cannot do shechita in one direction with a 2 neck length knife. I have to have a 2 neck length knife minimum no matter what, or I for sure went back and forth. So again, the Shulchan Aruch here is lenient, and he allows me to go in one direction if the knife is 2 lengths thick. If the knife is less than that and I'm going in both directions, no problem. And the Rama says that is correct except for a behema, where for a behema this does not apply. You cannot go in one direction with a knife that is 2 lengths thick. It's interesting he doesn't give us maybe you need 3 knives lengths for a behema to go in one direction. He doesn't tell us that, so it probably means that he says that for a behema we have to go in both directions, and you have to have the knife be at least two neck lengths thick. Now, if you remember, this is applicable if you have a pigima that's mesuchsechet, and there we earlier on, I believe that was in the first class, the Shulchan Aruch allowed us to use a knife that was mesuchsechet as long as we only cut in that one direction, and we knew about that direction before shechita. Whereas the Rama did not allow us to do that, and you can see that this very much parallels their line of thinking, where the Rama does not allow us to go at all, at least for a behemah, in only one direction, and he requires us to go at least in both directions, and to have a knife that is 2 knife lengths thick. Bet shachat beit rashim ke'echad b'holacha o b'hova'a vilvad. So now I have a case where I'm, for some reason, cutting 2 heads, 2 shechitas at once, with only one direction. 2 heads at the same time in only one direction. So what like our havamina is, well, so I have a knife that is 2 neck lengths thick, and just because I'm doing 2 heads at once, I should be okay. So no. So if you have 2 heads that you're cutting, you need to have a knife that is 3 lengths, 3 necks length. It's funny to say that. So that means another way to see these 2 halachot, bet and gimel, is I always need 1 more neck length for every animal that I'm shechting. And if I don't have a knife that is 3 neck lengths, and I'm doing 2 heads, and I only go in one direction, then yesh le'esor, we should be strict and not allow that. Dalid. שניים אוחזין בסכין ושוחטין אפילו זה למעלה לצד הראש וזה למטה לצד החזה. So here you have a case where 2 are holding onto the knife at once. And this is actually the way they did it in the Beis Hamikdash. They had big knives and big animals, and actually 2 people would cut at the same time, holding on different sides of the knife. And he says, afilu, if one is holding it, even if one is holding the knife on the top and one is holding it on the bottom, or one on the bottom and one on the where the chest of the animal is, shochazin oto ba'alachson, and holding it on an angle, kshera velo chashin and shemen yidresu ze al ze. So we are not worried about drasa, chopping, when 2 people use the knife. We don't really do this where we have 2 people holding onto the knife anymore. So unfortunately, I don't really know any practical things to tell you about this. The Simla Chadasha does say that the case of where one is holding the knife at the top and one at the bottom is only in a case of a great need. Lechatchila, both should be holding it at the same side. I guess the knives are heavy and you need 2 people to hold it, but by the same handle, not one on either side. That's all I have to add on that. Hey, haya shochet v'chatach kol hamifreket kshera. So I shechted and I ended up cutting off the entire head, or at least the whole neck bone. Kshera, it is kosher. Now this, of course, is where there was no pigima found on the knife after the shechita. But so what's the havamina here? Why would I have thought this is a problem? Well, if the whole head came off, it probably means that you did drasa. Because how else could that have happened unless you were chopping when you were cutting? And so the Shulchan Aruch does not have a problem with that. He does not say it is drasa. But the Rama, v'aminhag la'atrif. But our custom is to make this a treif. In other words, it was drasa if the whole head came off. And now he says, afilu lo chatach rak rov hamifreket. Not only if you cut off the whole head is the custom to make it treif, but also if I cut off the majority of the neck, we also say it's treif. Ve'en l'shanot ki yesh mira ki yesh. You know what? I don't know what this word is. The ink here is not clear. Sovrin ken. And that might be yesh mirabotenu. I don't know. But we shouldn't change this custom because a lot of people feel this way. What way? That if I cut off even a majority of the neck bone, and certainly the entire head, it is considered drasa. So again, the Rama is strict. If we cut off even a majority of the head, not allowed, and the Shulchan Aruch allows it. And I have here in my notes that in a case of great need, the Rama certainly, or a great monetary loss, or a great need, the Rama certainly would allow it. But he's saying that our custom is not to, because we say it's drasa. As long as the shochet says no, there's no way that I went down. I'm an experienced shochet, and I definitely did not do any chopping. It just so happened, I don't know, I lost my mind focus of what I was doing, and I just continued cutting too long or something. If it's a case of great need, if nothing else to eat, then, or if it's like a buffalo or a very expensive animal, the Rama would also allow it. But Mikar Din, he does not allow it if the head came off, or if even the majority of the head came off. This is, like I said, not to be confused with the halacha that we learned earlier about if you nick the mifreket and then you do have a pigima. In that case, everyone says that it is not good, because we said that the pigima could have happened when the shochet went into the skin on top before he cut the kaneh and the veshet. But here is where there was no pigima afterwards, and it's talking about drasa, not to confuse those two cases. Vav. כשאדם שוחט עוף ואוחז בסימנים בשתי אצבעותיו, when a person is shechting a bird and he's holding the simanim, the kaneh and the veshet, with both of his fingers, צריך שיאחז אותם יפה, hold them nicely. שאם אינו אוחז אותן בטוב, if he doesn't hold them well, פעמים שיהיו נשמטין לכאן ולכאן, ולא יכול לשחטן. Sometimes they will move from side to side, and you won't be able to shecht it properly. Al yedei holacha, doing the proper cutting. We have olidei drasa, and you will end up chopping. You will end up doing this chopping. So basically, it's telling us for birds, you have to make sure that you hold, you properly hold the simanim, which we put our hand from behind the chicken's neck and kind of use our fingers to push up, and so they're kind of pushing out onto the skin of the neck, the two windpipes there, so we can cut on it nice and easily without having to chop down. And this is an interesting halacha the Rama adds, V'chein lo yaniach ha'etzba ala sakin. Don't put your finger on the knife when you are shechting, right? Like hold all of your fingers around the handle of the knife, and don't put, like, let's say your index finger forwards resting on the blade of the knife. Ela yachzik ota bakata, hold it on the handle, kedei shelo yavo lidei drasa, because this can cause drasa. If I'm putting even my finger on the you can see the Rama is usually always stricter, and so he says don't put any extra weight, even your finger, on the knife, because that can cause you to make a downwards motion with the knife, and we don't want to be making a downwards motion. We just want to be going back and forth, and the knife is naturally falling. Now we're back to the Shulchan Aruch. Va'afilu lo asa drasa ela b'mashehu min haveshet psula. So remember, now he's talking about the case of birds, and he's telling us to hold the birds properly. And he says here, Va'afilu lo asa drasa ela b'mashehu min haveshet psula. Like, I suppose this is a case where I already cut the kaneh, and then the end of my shechita only had a little bit of drasa on the veshet, and that is pasul. Rama v'haminhag la'atrif kol drasa bein b'miut kama, bein b'miut batra, bein b'kaneh, bein b'veshet. And the Rama says we disallow all drasa, and it doesn't matter if the drasa happened for a bird after we already cut the kaneh and it's only into the veshet. It doesn't matter. Basically, a little ben at the beginning of the shechita, if I did a little bit of drasa, like I just did a little bit of drasa into the kaneh, but I didn't finish the shechita yet, and I'm continuing to cut. So you might think that's allowed. no drasa is allowed in any instance, according to the Ramah, and also according to the Shulchan Aruch. From what I could tell, the Shulchan Aruch does not allow any drasa at all, from what I understood. So I'm not sure why the Ramah's wording here is that the custom is to treat. Maybe he's just clarifying. He's clarifying any case of drasa is not allowed. Okay, so that's drasa. Any kind of chopping. It also means that the knife has to be the right length, and you cannot put your finger on top of the knife. And if the drasa happened at any place, any time of the shechita, it is drasa. But two people who are shechting are allowed to do drasa. Are allowed to shecht without worry of drasa, to people who are skilled at doing that. And then we saw the machloket between the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah about where the head, or even a majority of the head, was chopped off. Next, chalada. Ketzad kegon she'echnis hasakin bein siman lesiman. So here is really sick, like you put the knife in between the kaneh and the veshet. Ben sheshachat hatachton kehilchato milamala lemata. Whether I shechted the veshet properly from up to down in the right direction, but the kaneh was covering the knife. V'chazar v'otzio v'shachat ha'elyon, and then you took the knife out and cut the top. Remember, that's shehiyah, but the Shulchan Aruch allows shehiyah. So you have a case where chalada is where you put the knife between the two simanim, you cut down to cut the veshet in the right direction, right? Because we always have to cut from top down. And the reason why is so that we could see. So don't try to be like smart and put the knife between the kaneh and the veshet, cut down on the veshet, and then take the knife out and then cut the kaneh. Ben shachat ha'elyon mimata lemala, and if I put the knife in the middle and I cut up to cut the kaneh, shelo kilchato, which is not allowed. So that was where I didn't even take out the knife to cut. I didn't do shehiyah, and I cut down and then I cut up without taking the knife. All that is called chalada and is not allowed. Seems pretty obvious to us, but not allowed to do that. The idea here of chalada is that we have to be able to see the cut. We don't actually have to see it. We should see it, but we have to be able to see it. I.e., if I looked away while I was shechting, the shechita is kosher b'diavad. But if something was blocking my line of sight, which could not be removed, or I could not look away from it, that is going to be pasul, and that's what we're going to see now in the next examples that the Shulchan Aruch brings. Chet hichliret hasakin tachat haor. Now, what if I slid the knife underneath the skin? O tachat tzemer mesubach batzavara be'ema. So this is already now getting to be a more realistic case, where I put the knife underneath hard wool. Right, the sheep's wool by his neck could be full of who knows what, and so I don't want to have any issues of whatever is in the wool causing me a pgima. So I said, I know what I'll do. I will slide the knife underneath that wool and then cut. But you see, then that wool is in a sense permanently blocking. You cannot move your body to see underneath the knife. So that's why it's going to be a problem. O tachat matlit hakishur betzavara. Or if I have a matlit, like a handkerchief, tied to the animal's neck, and I want to put my knife under the animal under the handkerchief. O shamatlit medubak. Or if the handkerchief is maybe stuck onto the bo b'shava v'shachat shchitato psula. Right, it's stuck with some wax or something, and so I wanted to put it underneath. So if it's tied or if it's stuck, shchitato psula. In all those cases, the shchita is pasul. Aval. Now here's the big thing to realize. Im hamatlit parus al tzavara. But if the handkerchief is simply spread over the neck and it's not tied and it's not glued, v'shachat shchitato kshera, and I put my knife underneath the handkerchief that just so happens to be there, covering it, shchitato kshera. Why? Because that could be very easily moved, and that's the idea there. Why the Shulchan Aruch says that it would be allowed. V'yesh mi sheposel gam bezeh ulechatchila yesh achush dvarav. But there is an opinion that if it's covered, if the Shechita area is covered, but it's even and not in a permanent way, like it's not with a knot and it's not tied down, it's just spread out, and it could be easily moved, no, nonetheless, that is still no good. So we saw the only cases where the matlit, the handkerchief, was spread out loosely. He said it is technically kosher, but then he does bring the opinion that that is also not allowed, and yesh lachush l'dvarav, and we should follow his opinion. Rama v'chein yesh li zeher b'ksavim sheyesh lehem tzemer mesubach b'tzavareihem litlosh hatzemer hamusubach shelo yavo lidei chalada. And therefore, we have to be careful with sheep that have this tzemer mesubach, this hard wool or whatever, on their necks to pull it out. Litlosh, right? I guess today they would use shears, which is what they do. So that you won't come to this chalada where the knife will get covered by the hairs, by the wool. Not about the potential begimot factor. That he's not worried about that, because we could wash the wool. He's saying, no, remove the wool as much as you can. And that's interesting, because if you remember, he told us to be very careful about removing feathers, because feathers can cause blood, it can cause a nick to the veshet. So here he's telling us that we're not worried about making any blood come out when we shear the wool off of a sheep, which is interesting because we know that pulling feathers does hurt the animals, whereas shearing the sheep, I suppose, does not. Like us when we get a haircut. Tzarich lizaher tet. Tzarich lizaher k'she'adam shochet v'chas al ha'or. So you have to be careful when a person's shechting and he's worried about the skin. You can imagine if you're shechting a cow or something, that skin makes leather, makes parchment, so you might be, I don't want to have any unnecessary holes made by the shochet in my skin of the animal. So he's saying be very careful when you're shechting and the person is stressing you out about not to make holes. Shelo ya'aseh bo kera gadol v'shochet, that he doesn't want you to make a big hole. V'shochet barosh hasakin, and then you shech just with the top of the knife, i.e. make a little hole. Umitchaseh meha'or, and then you make a little hole and you slide the knife underneath there, so you're making a little hole to slide the knife out, and then shecht, right? Omnam im shochet be'emtza sakin ein lachush im rosho mitchaseh ba'or. But then he makes a qualification. He says, but we don't have to worry if the head of the knife ended up getting covered with skin. Like, this is obviously not a case for a chicken, but you can imagine a cow with a lot of skin under the neck, and I start cutting, and the top of the knife could get covered from a skin fold. But the middle of the knife is not covered, right? As long as I'm shechting with the middle like I'm supposed to. When I put the knife there, the top of the knife is getting covered. So he says you don't have to worry about that. Kevan she'asakin b'mkom sheshochet bo keneged hasimanim eino mechuseh, because we don't have to worry about that, because the place where we're cutting is not covered. So this is not like a pigima, where any pigima anywhere on the knife is not allowed to be used, even if I don't cut over that place. Here, chalada, he's saying that technically if some of the knife is covered, but not the place where I'm cutting is covered, like if the place where I'm cutting is uncovered, then it's not a problem. But there are people who are strict in this, and you should be careful. And you should be careful about that as well, i.e. the knife should be completely uncovered, lechatchila. And obviously don't do this thing where you make a small hole to slide in the knife to avoid making holes in the skin. It's just a necessary thing that we have to do. Now, if I cut rov simanim, right? I did either 51% of kaneh or veshet in a chicken, or 51% of kaneh and veshet in a behema and a chaya. Hichira sakin tachat mi'ut hanishar mishnehem o me'echad mehem upasku mutar. So it happened that when he was shechting, after the shechita was done, but he's still cutting, the knife slid underneath and became covered, or from both of the simanim, or from one of the simanim, but the knife became covered. And the halacha is that is allowed. We're not worried about that. And then we see a pattern. And no, there's an opinion who also says no, this is also not good if the chalada happened even after the shechita, like after rov simanim were shechted. It's still not allowed. It's still not allowed even after the fact. And that is the opinion that he advises us to follow lechatchila. But b'di'evet, if it happened, the shechita is kosher. And now the Rama will strengthen this position. V'aminhag la'atrif kol chalada bein b'miut kama, bein miut batra, bein b'kaneh, bein b'veshet. And the Rama, just like we saw with drasa. With drasa, the Rama for chalada says any chalada, if it happened at the beginning, if it happened at the end, if it happened by the kaneh, if it happened by the veshet, it doesn't matter when it happened, we do not allow it. And that, of course, is the halakha today. Yud Aleph. Im echlid hasakin tachat miut harishon, v'shachtu mimata lemala. If I slid the knife under a little bit of the first, i.e. the kaneh, and I cut down up. But then I finished the shechita properly. And also if I shechted the majority of one of the simanim in the be'ema, and afterwards I slid the knife under it a little bit and shechted the second one properly. It's hard to exactly know what he's talking about here. Exactly the case, I don't exactly know. V'chein im shachat miut arishon b'chalada, and also if I shechted a little bit of the first with chalada, v'gamar shchita shelo b'chalada harezo psula. So here again we see that all these cases are no good, are all considered chalada. The only cases of chalada, potential chalada, which the Shulchan Aruch allowed us, was we saw if there's a matlit that is spread over it, that's not tied and not stuck, and he says don't do that, but technically you could, and then he's also telling us that if the chalada happened to happen by a fold of skin after the shechita, that is allowed, but he also says ideally don't do that. And the third case, that was the third case, and the second case was where the part of the knife was covered, but it's not the part that we are cutting with. So that also technically he allowed, but he advised us not to do that either. So just again, the first case where you have these are the three cases of potentially allowed chalada b'di'evet, according to the Shulchan Aruch, because we saw the Rama doesn't allow anything. So one was if there was a handkerchief spread over it that could be moved. The second one was where some of the knife was covered, but not really the place where I'm cutting. And the third case was if it happened after I already cut rov simanim. Those are the three b'di'evet cases that the Shulchan Aruch allowed. So that's chalada. Basically, again, you have to be able to see the simanim being cut. That's the idea there. You have to be able to see, right? And that is really the ideal, and you have to see it, and nothing should be blocking you. But technically, we saw that even a handkerchief over it, or if another part of the knife was covered, pardon me, or if it happened after I cut the rov simanim, so you had chalada there, And there, in those cases, b'diavad allowed, but even the chatchila did not allow. So that's chalada. Hagrama. Ketzad. Hagrama ketzad. What is hagrama? Zeh hashochet b'kaneh lemala b'makom she'eno ra'ui l'shchita. This is where you cut above the place. You cut the kaneh above the right place, which we saw was the shipui kova. So if I cut above the shipui kova, or even today the halacha is the tabat hagdola. If I cut into the tabat hagdola, or certainly above the tabat hagdola, that's considered hagrama. Or sheitchil yishchot b'mkom shchita v'shachat me'at. So now I have an interesting case. So here, I started shechting in the right place, and I shechted a little bit. Ve'hata hasakin chutz lemakom shchita lemala vegamra sham. So I shechted a little bit, i.e. not enough, not rove, and then I somehow ended up finishing in the wrong place. I suppose the chicken could have moved, but my knife cutting remained consistent and smooth even though the chicken moved. And so I started in one place and ended up finishing in another place. So that is also called hagrama. Aval, and it's not allowed. Aval. Now here's the big thing that he allows. Aval im shachat rov halal hakaneh b'mkom hashchita. But if I did do rov of the kaneh in the right place, v'ata sakin chutza makom shchita lemala v'gamar sham chatichat kol hakaneh ksheira. So here he allows hagrama after rov was already done properly. V'hu adin, and this is the halacha, im shachat rov shnayim b'beima b'mkom shchita v'yishlim hashchita b'hagrama o badrasa ksheira. And this is the halacha that as long as even in a beima, he said that even if I cut the majority of both kaneh and the veshet in the right place, and the end of my shchita ended up cutting in the wrong place, and he adds here, or I ended up chopping in the wrong place. Now, of course, the Ramah is not going to allow any of this, but the Shulchan Aruch tells us here very clearly that if I did proper shchita, and then I ended up doing hagrama or drasa, it is still kosher. Obviously, b'diavad, you shouldn't do that. This is b'diavad, you shouldn't do this lechatchila. But as long as you cut rov simanim in a kosher fashion, and then you ended up in the wrong place or doing a chop, he allows it. V'yesh mi sheposel b'drasa v'yesh achushu d'var lechatchila. And then he reminds us of what he told us earlier, that no, any drasa, even after the simanim are cut, there's an opinion that says you shouldn't do that. And you should listen to that person. So he does not allow. He gives us the opinion that you shouldn't do drasa after you did a proper shchita, then you ended up with drasa. There's an opinion not to do that, but he does not give that for hagrama, which means that according to Shulchan Aruch, if I shechted rov simanim and then I ended up in the wrong place at the end where I cut more, it's not a problem for hagrama. For the Shulchan Aruch. Ramah, of course, as you might expect, v'aminhag v'atrif, bein b'drasa, bein b'hagrama, bein b'miukam, bein b'mibacha, bein b'kaneh, bein b'veshet. No hagrama, no drasa are allowed at all. Yod Gimel. Hegrim b'kaneh b'tchilat shlish. I started off, and 1/3 of my cut was in the wrong place. V'shachat beit shlishim ksheira. Sorry, let me read that again. Higrim b'kaneh b'tchilat shlish, v'shachat beit shlishim ksheira. So if I started off in the wrong place, and that's why I did 1/3 of my cut, but then the last 2/3 were done in the right place, it is kosher, right? The Shulchan Aruch allows hagrama. And not only does he allow it at the end of shchita, he also allows it at the beginning of shchita. As long as I only did 1/3, the majority of my cutting was in the right place, i.e. 2/3, then it is kosher. Either at the end, which we saw here, Or he did not bring a yesh omrim. He did not bring, so definitely he allows hagrama at the beginning, and here, at the end, and here he allows hagrama at the beginning. And he's going to give us even an more interesting case. Shachat shlish ve'igrim shlish v'chazar v'shachat shlish acharon kshera. So also, if I did 1/3 in the right place, and the second third in the middle went in the wrong place, but then somehow I got back to the right place, that is also allowed. So basically he's giving us all three potential cases where it was at the beginning, the middle, or the end, where it was in the wrong place. But as long as I cut in the right place, majority, then the shechita is kosher. Higrim shlish v'shachat shlish v'chazar v'higrim shlish ha'acharon harezo psula. Okay, so now he tells us one case where it is pasul, and that is where I started my first third in the wrong place, and then the middle third in the right place, and the last third in the wrong place. So he's clarifying for us here. But if the first third and the last third, the first third and third third were in the wrong place, and I only had a second, only the middle part was done in the right place, that is not allowed. So i.e. the majority of the time has to be, or it's really 2/3. I don't want to change the wording of the Shulchan Aruch. 2/3 of the time has to be in the right place. Ve'im daras o ichlid. Now we get back to this, where the Shulchan Aruch allows. Remember, drasa, he allowed only at the end of Shechita, not at the beginning of Shechita, and there was a yesh omrim that it was not allowed, and he told us to listen to it at the end. Oichlid, here you have the same thing, right? There was 3 cases of where he did chalada, and it again was at the end. So here he's telling us, so if I did drasa or chalada, bein b'shlish rishon, bein b'shlish emtza'i, harezo psula. So he's reminding us, I only allowed drasa and chalada b'di'eved, right? Not according to the yesh misha omer that he told us to listen to, but I only allowed drasa and chalada at the end. If you did it in the first third of the cutting or the second third of the cutting, it is no good, because only at the end, i.e. after the simanim have already been cut. Yodalid. Kol elu hachalukim kshehu vadai shelo naga b'veshet. Now all of these above cases where I did hagrama, where I cut a little bit here and a little bit there, right, but the majority was done in the right place, this is only kosher if you're sure that you did not hit the veshet. Because once I hit the veshet anywhere before the rov simanim have been cut, that animal is treifah. Ela b'kaneh letzad mala. I only hit the kaneh, because I can cut the kaneh a little bit and it does not make the animal treif. Only the veshet makes the animal treif. Aval b'veshet. But if I hit the veshet on any of those cuts, afilu shachat bo koshehu chutz limkom shchita. Even if I only nicked it a little bit outside of the proper place of shechita, ben letzad mala, ben letzad mata, right? If I hit the veshet above, at the turbatz haveshet, or above, or below the lowest part for the veshet, which in the bird is the zefek, and in a beheman chaya we saw it's either where the ear comes down, or it's where the b'nei ma'ayim, where the intestines start. If I nicked any of those areas, no good. V'chein b'kaneh letzad mata kodem gemar hechsher shchita. And also, if I hit the kaneh below the allowed place, i.e. if I hit the kaneh at the zefek, or if I hit the kaneh for an animal we said was the tabata, no, the bottom part. The bottom part for an animal, for a chicken it's the zefek, and for an animal it's the, you know what, I'm going to bring up my chart, hold on, just to remind us. I don't know if you'll be able to see the chart that we made on the video here, but I am looking at it. Chaya be'ema, oh yes, ad rosh knaf ha'una, right, that whole long inflated thing. That is, so if I hit the kaneh below the knaf ha'una, or if I hit the kaneh below the zefek in a bird. Af al pi shegamar kol hasha'ar bamakom shchita, even though after I nicked the kaneh in the wrong place, or the veshet in the wrong place, afterwards I cut everything correctly, hareza psula, no good. So we see that any nick in the veshet and the only thing you're allowed to nick is the kaneh at the top. Of course, it's only according to Shulchan Aruch. The Ramah would not allow any of this. But the Shulchan Aruch, he says that if I hit the kaneh on the top, and only the kaneh, not the veshet, and not the kaneh on the bottom, and not the veshet on the bottom, of course, then it is pasul. Mipnei shenikivat mekomot halalu b'mashu. Because I nicked one of those places, which makes it a treifa. The Ramah, of course, will tell us v'minhag latrif mikol makom ve'en l'shanot, and the minhag is, of course, to make treif any hagrama, any shihiyah, any drasa, any chalada. The Ramah is very easy. The Shulchan Aruch is a little more complicated. Okay, so that was Hagrama. Let's just quickly review. Hagrama is where I cut in the wrong place. The Shulchan Aruch allowed me, as long as the majority of my cutting was done in the right place, and as long as the majority of my cutting was done, and as long as when I started in the wrong place, I didn't start too low for the kaneh and the veshet, or too high for the veshet. He only allows me to start in the wrong place if I only hit the kaneh up top. That's hagrama. Hagrama is in a general sense shechting in the wrong place, and the only case where you are allowed to do hagrama, only according to Shulchan Aruch, is where I only hit the kaneh above the tabat hagdolah, and then I went to finish the rest. Or if I even went in and out and in of the Shechita place, that would also be allowed. So he only allows me to do hagrama going above the place of the kaneh. Otherwise, any hagrama is also not allowed. So the machloket between the Ramah and the Shulchan Aruch here is really only for hagrama by the kaneh lamala. Ikur keitzad kagon shene'ekar hakaneh o haveshet mehalechi umehabasar v'nishmat echad mehem o shnehem kodem gemar shchita. Ikur is when the kaneh or the veshet was pulled out, either from the lechi, which I think is the throat box thing at the top, or from the meat. Basically, if it became disconnected, v'nishchat echad mehem, or if one of them disconnected, or shnaim, or if both of them got disconnected, if anything got disconnected from where they're supposed to be, for the kaneh or the veshet, before you finished the shechita, right? So we can already see in our mind. So that means that if it became disconnected after I already cut rov simanim, maybe it's not going to be a problem. But certainly, if it became disconnected before I cut rov simanim, it is considered ikur, and we're going to see it's not allowed. Aval, but im shachat echad ba'of or rubo, va'achar kach nishmat hasheni shchitato ksheira. So with a bird, where I only have to cut either the kaneh or the veshet, technically I only have to cut the majority of them. So if I cut one fully, or even the majority of the kaneh or the veshet, and afterwards the other one ended up getting disconnected. So I shechted the kaneh, and after I shechted the kaneh, the veshet got disconnected. It's still allowed. So we see here again that if we see a pattern that the Shulchan Aruch allows things to happen after the shechita was already done, i.e. after the simanim were cut properly. There are cases where he allows us. We're going to see, of course, that the Ramah does not allow any of this as usual, but we can see here that the Shulchan Aruch is saying that in a bird, right, if the other siman, not the one that I cut, if the other one got disconnected after I already cut the first one properly, then that is not considered ikur. Nishmat echad mehem ve'achar kach shachat hasheni shchitato psula. But if the ikur happened beforehand, and either the kaneh or the veshet was disconnected before I was able to finish shchita on the other one, that is not allowed. Rama ve'anu noagin la'atrif kol ikur ben b'miut kama ben b'miut batra ben b'kaneh ben b'veshet. Right? If there's anything that became disconnected, we don't allow it. If it happened at the start of the shechita, if it happened at the end of the shechita, for the kaneh, for the veshet, anything disconnected is no good. V'dafka le'achar shenishchat. Aval b'chayav kasher. So now the Rama finally brings us a little bit of a leniency, and this is saying, this is if the disconnection of the kaneh or the veshet happened after the shechita, it's not allowed. But if it became disconnected while the animal was still alive, before I put a knife on the neck, ela she'ein shechita mo'elet bo, v'nafka mina le'inyan chelbo או ביצים שלו שהם כשרות. So he tells you here, it's not that I can shecht an animal that has one of its kaner veshet disconnected. That he doesn't allow at all. But if it became disconnected and the animal is still alive, he's saying the shechita doesn't make the animal kosher, but his milk and the eggs remain kosher of that animal. So if an animal has a disconnected, I don't know how, again, I'm not a veterinarian or anything, but if the animal has a disconnected kaner veshet, the milk and the eggs that are found in that animal are still kosher. The shechita doesn't help. I cannot eat the meat. But the milk and the eggs, in a case where one of the kaner, the veshet, or both of them became disconnected, are still allowed. It's the only leniency that he gives us for ikur, for when something became disconnected, is the milk and the eggs. And I just thought of a question, and I do not know the answer to this question, which is, if I shechted an animal with a knife that has a pigima, which is Rashi's opinion of ikur, would the Rama allow its milk and eggs that remained in the animal at that time? No, of course he would not. I found the answer, because he says here, v'dafka l'achar shenishchat, right? That's the only case where he allows it to be disconnected and to use the milk of the eggs is where the animal is actually still alive. Okay, Tet Zayin. Ha difsol b'ikur hainu kshen ekar kulo. The whole thing of ikur is where it is completely disconnected. Aval im nishtayer bo afilu mashahu kasher. But if it is hanging on by even a thread, it's not considered disconnected, and none of these problems apply. It has to be fully disconnected. But it has to be hanging on by one place, one thread. Or it could be bigger than a thread, but it has to be connected at one place. But if the little bit that's hanging on is miduldal, which means shehu ma'at kan u'ma'at kan pasul. Shnikar hadavar shne'ekar b'koach. Uma shenishar mechubar chibur medudalhu v'havale ne'ekar kulo upasul. So if it's hanging on by a few threads, if it's hanging on a little bit here and a little bit there, it's connected at more than one place, that means that it was pulled out forcefully, and what's connected is miduldal, and that is a sign that it was ikored, it was forcefully pulled out. But if it's hanging on by one place, then that means, I suppose, it just degenerated or the animal was sick. So it's not ikur. It did not happen by it was pulled out. But if you see that it was pulled out and it's hanging on by a few places, if you see that it's disconnected and it's hanging on by a few places, that means that ikur happened. Then it is pasul. But if it's hanging on by one place, even if it's just a tiny little bit, that means it did not happen by ikur. I'm pretty sure we're going to see the Rama, of course. The Rama, of course, would not allow any of this, but we'll have to wait and see. V'hani milik shenekar rubo, and the above, where it's hanging on by one thread, that it's allowed, or where it's hanging on by two threads, it's not allowed, is where it is majority disconnected. Aval im lo nekar ela miut. But if it's only a little bit disconnected, v'rubo kayam, and the majority of it is connected, af al pi sherov zeh nisharhu miduldal, obviously right now you have, if a majority of it is still connected, but in numerous places, kasher. Miduldal ma'atkan u'matkan kasher, right? So if if it's hanging on by one thread, it's allowed. If it's hanging on by two threads or more, but it's less than a majority in total, it's not allowed. But if it's hanging on by two threads or more and it's more than a majority, then it is allowed. Yod Zayin. Shachat echad me'asimanim. I shechted one of the simanim, either the kaneh or the veshet. V'nimtza sheni shamut. And then I found the other one disconnected. Ve'ein yadua im kodem shchita nishmat o achar shchitato harezo psula. And I don't know when it became disconnected. Remember, we saw that if I did shchita properly, then it became disconnected afterwards, it's allowed. If it became disconnected first and the shchita, it's not allowed. So here you have a case where I don't know if it became disconnected first or not. So he was saying that we have to be strict and not allow it. If I don't know that the disconnection happened for sure after the shchita, it is not allowed. Rama. V'afilu zarak ha'of miado v'lo amrinan demechamat zrika o pirkus nishmat. Now here is the Rama's famous leniency. I would call it famous because it's like one of the only places that he's lenient in this whole story. He says, if I threw the bird from my hand, right before I was able to check the simanim, and then I threw the bird, and then I see that it is disconnected. We do not say lo amrinan de mechamat zrika or pirkus nishmat. We should not say that the fact that I threw the chicken down, or the fact that it was flooding around there doing its pirkus, you remember that was the first thing we talked about, I should not say that it became disconnected because of that. Mihu hashochet ne'eman lomar shelo haya shamut b'shat shchita. The shochet, we believe him that if he said it was not shamut at the time of if it was not shamut at the time of the shchita, we believe that the shochet said that. Let's just read this again. The Rama here is talking about this case. Shachat echad me'asimanim b'nimtza sheni shamut, and I don't know when it happened. Here, right, this was the case where one is disconnected, but I don't know if it happened before or after. So the Rama is saying, even if I threw the chicken down, or the chicken had a very violent pirkus, I don't say that. This is not the Rama's leniency. I apologize. It's coming up in a different place, I believe. Hold on, let me just check my notes here for 2 seconds. No, so here I'm sorry. I said this wrong. I have to say it again. The Rama is saying that if it is shamut, if one of the simanim was disconnected, and I don't know when it became disconnected, and it just so happens that I threw the chicken down hard, or the chicken had a violent pirkus, or just a regular pirkus, I don't say that it became disconnected from that action, right? It could have become disconnected beforehand, and we didn't know. We just didn't know, and because we didn't know, therefore we have to be strict, and we can't hang it, right? Just like we said, if we lost a knife, then we found it pagum afterwards, but we saw that it fell on the ground, then we can hang the pagima on the fact that it fell on the ground. You cannot do that here. You cannot hang the ikur, or the one of the simanims being shamut, disconnected, that it happened after after the shechita, because I threw the chicken down, or it had a pirkus, so obviously that's what made it disconnect. No, if you were not sure that, and that's what he says here, right? But if the shochet is certain that it was not disconnected when I did the shechita, and then it became disconnected afterwards, so that is okay. So here the Rama is strict, like usual, and does not allow us to say that, it became disconnected because of the pirkus, or because I threw it down, that's the force made it disconnect, so obviously it happened afterwards. No, if you are not sure that it was, if you are not 100% sure that it was connected beforehand, only then would you allow it. So here the Rama, I suppose you could say, is slightly lenient in that he allows ikur if it happened after the shechita. Right, so the Rama here is not like all the other cases where he doesn't allow anything after the shechita. He doesn't allow any shihiyah, doesn't allow any drasa, chalada, hagrama. Right, we saw that the Rama didn't allow any of those cases, but he does appear to allow shmuta. Something was disconnected, as long as we are sure that it became disconnected after the shechita. Obviously, if it was before the shechita, everybody would not allow it. That is the definition of ikur. Nimtza hasiman hashachut shamut. You found that the siman that you shechted was disconnected. Im ksheshachat tafas hasimanim biyado or beit hashchita me'achorav v'nidchak hasiman tachat haor harei zo psula. If when I shechted I was holding the simanim with my fingers, either, or if I was holding the skin of the Beit HaShchita, that's the right place to cut, underneath the Tabat HaGdolat, the house of the Shechita, from the back, and I noticed that the siman was pushing underneath the skin, Harei zo psula, that is not allowed. Let's just read this again. This siman is not relevant for today, but I think we should just try to learn it. Nimtza siman hashachut shamut. You found that the siman was shamut, that you cut. So if when you shechted you were holding the simanim properly, and the siman was pushing underneath the skin, that is psula. In other words, that's a sign that the siman was shamut before you did the shechita. V'im lav mutar. But if the siman was not pushing out against the skin, that's a sign that maybe the siman was not shamut before you did the shechita. And how do you check? Mutar al yadei b'dika. You do a check. Sheyavi be'ema v'yishchot siman v'achar kach ya'akreno. You bring another animal and you shecht that siman, and then you pull it out. And if they look the same, if the two shechitas look, in other words, if the two simanim look the same, then it is kosher. But if the animal that you know was done properly, but it's redder, then the first one is not allowed. And now here's what I said. Right, so there's like this potential thing you can do by bringing another animal and pulling out its siman and comparing the two simanim of the two animals, and if they look exactly the same, then I can say that, as you see, so the first one I did, it was not shamut before I did the shechita. But if they look different, then I can say, oh, it obviously was shamut because this healthy animal, it's redder. It has more blood in it. It's healthier. Then the first one was shamut. You can compare them. But then he says, but we're not experts in comparing kanes and veshets, and we don't do this anymore. So basically, again, if we are not sure when the siman became disconnected, it is asur. Shachat ha'of kedarko yotet. I shechted a bird properly, bechsher. V'achar gamar shchita matzat tabat me'agageret shalem al hasakin kasher. So here's where I shechted a chicken in the normal way, and afterwards I found one of the rings of the kaneh whole on the knife. So the idea here is that can only happen if you have... Hold on, I'm getting a phone call. 1 second. Okay, we are continuing. We'll just review because I had to pause the tape. Shachat ha'of kedarko bechsher v'achar gemar shchita mutzat tabat me'agageret shalem al hasakin kasher. So if you cut a chicken in the normal way, kosher way, and afterwards you found one of the rings from the gargeret, which is the kaneh, the rings around the kaneh, complete on the knife. The idea here is that this could only happen if the kaneh was somehow misshapen, like if it was like an ellipsis, sort of like a parabola, when you cut it, and that's how a ring would end up being on, and then therefore you might think it's a problem, but the Shulchan Aruch says kasher, but the Rama v'yesh matrifin b'zeh, but there is an opinion that this is considered treif v'chen ikar, and that is you should be strict ve'en l'shanot, and don't change this this custom to make it not custom. Don't change it. You should consider it treif. So if you do shechita and you find one of the rings complete on your knife, it is no good. Chaf. השוחט תרנגול צריך להיזהר שידחוק רגלו בקרקע. Somebody who's shechting a chicken has to be careful to implant the legs of the chicken into the ground. או יגביהנו, or lift the legs off the ground. שלא ינעוץ רגלו בקרקע כדי שלא יעקור הסימנים. So that the chicken, when he kicks, if he kicks while you're shechting it, and his legs shouldn't get caught in the ground, and that will cause ikur, because they will cause the knife to cut in a not normal way, because it will be pulled as the chicken moves from the feet, by his feet. So you should be careful about that. Okay, that is Siman Chaf Daled. That is, like I said, the meat of Shechita. And we'll pause this video and do another video where we will continue on with the rest of the Simanim. Thank you. Have a great day.